Kowalski from Nebraska.
Kowalski from Nebraska. What's on your mind, Kowalski?
Well, did you know that we're in the midst of a farm crisis?
I did, in fact. Yes. But
We don't know what happened. We don't know where it came from. There are no seeming causes. It's just, one of those things. Tide comes in, tide goes out.
tide goes in, tide goes out, and then also maybe somebody has a seawall.
Yes. Just wanted to give everyone here a quick agricultural update, but we are on the verge of harvest here in central Nebraska. We intend on cutting beans tomorrow, and they will be the second cheapest beans I have ever cut.
What was the lowest price in the past for beans that you've encountered? And when was that?
Well, it depends, because technically the price being lower a few years ago makes sense. The value of the dollar was higher, so portions out. But as far as ROI, or I guess in this instance negative ROI, this is worse. The worst I personally lived through was 2018. And we don't know what caused that one either. Might have just been another one of those tidal situations. Definitely nothing to do with us angering our largest trading partner.
Right. And
yeah.
Now, what specifically walk us through this beans? We're not going to sell. There's tariffs on. We're not going to sell to China. Who would be normally the biggest market for beans?
Well, it's China.
Oh.
They are.
Whoops.
Almost 40% of the foreign market.
And so, are they? How much do they make of the foreign market now for beans?
For us, zero.
That seems like a big drop off. Who is stepping in? Surely somebody must be going somewhere around the world we should eat a lot more beans now.
Well, the big issue we have on that is the primary thing China buys our beans for is for livestock feed. They are the number one hog producers in the world, and they require a lot of grain. Simply, the United States, we have a higher cost of production because, labor costs here are a bit higher, our equipment's higher, and we pay probably higher taxes, although I'm not sure how you ratio that. But the thing that has always been cheap for us has been transportation because, we got the Mississippi River, and it's pretty easy to just throw things on a boat and let it float. This whole transportation issue is actually going to cause regional disparities in the farmer crisis. The big places to pay attention to are going to be Montana and North Dakota because historically all of their grain goes on an east-west rail line, mostly to the west to a port near Seattle, and then that goes to the Asian markets. That is basically cut off. So right now on the Chicago border.
Why is that cut off? Because there's no Asian markets anymore, or what?
Well, yeah, China was the big Asian market.
Okay.
So the only places we export beans to are places that are purchasing it to feed to livestock. So as of right now, the only places I would be buying that would be maybe some African countries, maybe a couple European countries, although they're almost self-sufficient with grain. The Middle East is a bigger market, so going east makes more sense than going west. So right now there is more pressure on those farmers up there in the north because
they used to sell to the west, and there's no way that they can go send it down to the Gulf of Mexico and get it on a ship.
Correct. And then for the folks in the south, they're in a similar boat because almost everything they produce was for the export market. We are a little bit shielded in the greater Midwest because this is where most of our ethanol is produced. This is where most of the livestock is, especially when it comes to feedlots. So we have domestic use here. It's just we still rely on exports. But the issue is when we go to export, we're just flooding the guys downstream. The guys downstream can't push boats upstream. That would be cost ineffective. So people in Arkansas are going to suffer more than the people in Missouri. The people in Missouri will suffer more than the people in Iowa. And the people of Iowa suffer because they're in Iowa.
Interesting. And so they'll sell it, and then all of a sudden it'll go down to a bigger market, and there's just going to be a ton of stuff and no buyers.
Yes, and one of the parts about this people need to keep in mind is that I've mentioned this many times. Farmers are price takers. We have monopolies on one end, monopsonies on the other. Transportation companies are not going to lose money. They will simply raise the cost of transportation until they get a 5% return. Farmers will end up bearing that cost because we also have no purchasing power when it comes to our inputs. If the people we buy our seed from or fertilizer from want 5% returns, they raise the price until they get 5% returns. There is no going around this. So all of this is going to be borne by the equity of farmers because they will have to borrow against their assets to finance this short-term loss, if it's short-term. It could be a long-term problem. And the issue with that right now is with these higher interest rates, it would be more difficult to refinance, which means a lot of banks are now looking at their spreadsheets and going, does it make more sense for us to take this farm and sell it or refinance these farmers? For the most part, the banks will say foreclose on these farmers because most local banks are dead. So we're probably going to see a very large spike in bankruptcies if there is not a massive government-backed refinancing scheme, which is basically what they did under Reagan.
Do you think there's going to be one? I mean, I just wonder if they think that if they can sustain the. I have a feeling that the Trump White House is not going to engage in a bailout because then it would have to concede that they have screwed up, and they won't do that before the midterms.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be doing that. They will do something. They almost always do something, but from my understanding, it would take basically brand new legislation until the big, beautiful bill provisions get processed through. So I would imagine there'll be somewhat of a relief check payment going out. There are some apparatuses the USDA has, but a lot of people point out back in 2018, there was a $90 billion bailout for farmers. Sounds like a lot. That is a lot of money. That was about half of the total economic impact, though. Farmers still had to refinance because they still took massive losses. And there isn't a lot of people who've dove into this, but I truly do believe that had it not been for the COVID relief payments, which were given out to small businesses, we likely would have just seen a perpetual crisis in the agricultural sector. I think those payments went through. It stabilized things for smaller and medium-sized farms. And then when the Russians decided to invade Ukraine, it caused a global grain shortage, which caused prices to spike, which kind of fixed everything for everyone outside of Ukraine, obviously. There are just a lot of factors at play there, but I think we're on the verge of something that's going to be pretty gnarly to deal with.
Geez.
I mentioned this on Left Reckoning. As much as I blame Trump for all of this, the second person I blame is Chuck Schumer. Tariffs are a choice for the Senate to allow the executive to get away with.
The passing of the budget resolution in whatever it was, March, also basically allowed for the abdication of their authority on tariffs. So it makes it much harder for the Republicans to take the blame. Also, it seems to me, just as a political matter, why is Chuck Schumer out there not saying, we need to save our farmers. We need a bailout right now for the farmers. It's just so.
It's the easiest political layup you could think of.
It's so easy because then if Trump does it, you get the credit. If Trump doesn't do it, you get the credit for promoting it. You're also raising the consciousness of the American public that there's something seriously, there's a tsunami coming in terms of the farmers.
Yeah. And just as I would also say there's a bit of like a national security argument with it as well, because farmers are basically the economic foundation to a lot of the more rural communities. If those are financially, destabilized, you're talking about more rural flight because there'll be less money circulating locally, which it's just going to add to more of the housing pressure in the more urban areas, greater strain on urban school systems. It's greater strain on rural school systems because they're being underutilized now. So it's just like, this is just massively destabilizing. It's like how, you spend $1 in the economy and it generates like $3 in return.
Yep.
Just imagine that, but across all of the rural counties. And rural counties only make up like 20% of the population, but you're talking about just vast swaths of the country that will just become dilapidated if this continues. And, obviously one of the worst parts about this is if it perpetuates for too long, corporate farms will end up buying up a lot of the smaller farms. So the money generated by those small farms won't be spent locally. All of that now gets pumped out to places like Wall Street or whatever exchanges they have in, like, say, London or Paris, because those multinational corporations do not spend money locally. They have no incentive. That also then adds pressure to your environment, because a corporation doesn't care if the local water supply is poisoned.
Right.
They don't drink the water. They don't care. At the very least, local farmers hunt and fish here and don't want to be eating lead.
Right, and
That's always
their
been
neighbors.
somewhat of a saving grace. Yeah. So this has the potential to be very, very bad. Now, the one caveat I will mention, just because of the added impacts of climate change, there is a chance next year a horrible drought hits Australia or Brazil or Argentina. The U.S. would bounce back. Or if the Russians decided to, attack Northern Europe for some reason, I guess, potentially, but I'm pretty sure Poland will win that. So, that, or if the U.S. somehow facilitated that through, I don't know, strategically attacking someone. I guess we could blockade Brazil conceivably, although that seems problematic on a lot of levels. So,
well, let's hope for something really tragic to happen somewhere else in the world.
I will leave you with this, though, just because Argentina was brought up. A buddy of mine sent me an article about this. He believes the reason that we bailed them out is because a lot of the money that has already been loaned to Argentina was by American hedge funds, and this is a way for the American taxpayer to bail out Argentina to pay back our hedge funds. So it's just a transfer of money back to American hedge funds.
Fair. Sounds fair.
The global cooperation of the far right is truly astounding. So, but I guess I will leave you with that. There is no good news. So you all have a good one.
Well, always great to hear from you. Thank you, Kowalski. Kowalski
Bye.
From Nebraska, cheering everybody up. They say it's always darkest, and then it just stays dark.
It gets darker and darker.
And then darker and darker. And then you just slowly drift off.
Hey, look on the bright side. There could be a famine somewhere next year.
We could get lucky. That's why global climate change, you have to look at it like we're in the high ground. And so the rising sea levels, it just means our property gets more valuable.
Yeah, and then, if you need to go out of business, Bill Gates will be happy to take that farm off your hands for you. Mar-a-Lago in the high ground of Florida.
Left is strange. Sam, I know a fellow New Englander when I hear it called the Packy. No one here in New York understands me.
That unlocked an ancient memory for me.
Ancient?
Yeah, feels ancient.
But to me, I still hear, I'm going to the Packy. I got to get... DNC Google Punt. Packy store. Will from Minnesota. Hey, Sam, any explanation what's being streamed on the Majority Report Live channel on weekends?
Me playing Madden.
What are we doing?
I don't know. Are we streaming stuff on the weekend now?
Jamie from the... I honestly don't know. Jamie from the UK. Hi, Sam, Emma, Matt, Brian. I wanted to ask, isn't it a problem that Zoran backtracked on globalize the Intifada? I feel a bit unsure, as most progressives don't seem to be mentioning it much. I saw this tweet from Palestinian journalist and Palestine correspondent for The Nation, Mohammed El Kurd, and he's one of the few people who've been challenging him on it. I don't think he ever said that, A. But B, if he backtracked on it, I wouldn't be surprised as a political matter.
I think he said he's not going to encourage it. I don't think he ever actually said he condemns it. Maybe I missed something. But, I mean, I don't think it's the ultimate... I understand why, like, activists on the Palestine issue are upset with it, and it's appropriate for them, and even me. Like, we talked about this on Left Reckoning, like, not happy about those sorts of sops to it. But he also backtracked on calling the NYPD a racist institution, and people were pissed off about that.
Much more aggressively.
Well, and then the very next day, he said he's going to get the NYPD to arrest Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, like, you know, this is politics.
Yep. I mean, that's basically it. There is not going to be any politician who is going to be 100% of what we want. And the question becomes, like, you know, where are the compromises? And I am okay with some rhetorical compromises. When he says he's going to keep, when he's asked about the police stuff, he says, my campaign's not been about that. We intend to keep current funding, current police levels, and then add essentially other community safety workers, which, you know, at the end of the day is exactly what, my interpretation of defund the police was.
It's also the socialist one. I mean, India Walton up in Buffalo also made this pivot years ago when she won the actual primary and then lost in the general. But the problem, the defund is not a socialist slogan. You need to point towards some sort of positive agenda rather than just say no. and the state does have a role in community safety, so there does need to be something like that. But I'll just say, like, the trade-off of saying, okay, I'll take back what I said about calling the NYPD racist and then get the NYPD to pledge to arrest Netanyahu is a trade that I would make every single time.
Harry Emden, Zoran has a pretty tremendous ability to concede on rhetoric without moving an inch on policy. Personally, I think that's a good thing for socialists to be pragmatic.
Especially the socialist politicians.
Yes. Everybody has their role. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.